I was going to talk about some recent news coming out of China with some bizarre merchandising that they're going to be doing exclusively in that country in relation to our beautiful Transformer brand. But I thought about, you know what? It's a Friday. Why don't we have something a little more interesting to go over? And it kind of relates to over the past couple of days, I've just, we all got free time now. And I've just been combing through so much of all the old source books that I've collected throughout the years of Transformers. And I kind of ended up on a little bit of a Unicron trilogy kick. Kind of was going through all of those, documenting which Minicons I'm missing from the Japanese side because there was only like 1 billion repaints over there and store exclusives and giveaways and lucky draws and everything. And I started just going through the books, and I came across an old, I think it was from like 17 years ago, an old interview from a Transformers Micron Detsetsu, also known as Armada in Japan, interview with Aaron Archer. And it was all in Japanese, and it had some really young, fresh-faced photos of Aaron. And I sent it to him, like, oh my God, look at this. And I sent it to him, and he thought it was so funny. And he said, you know what, you should try to translate that. And I was like, you know what, maybe I will. And so I started to translate it. And as I started translating it, I started going like, there's actually some information here, like that's here that we don't, that hasn't really been documented anywhere. And I figured, you know what? I'm going to try to translate this as best I can, and it's pretty rough, the translation that I did, as best as I could with my limited hiragana and katakana knowledge. And I shared it originally on my Patreon so people could check that out first and comb it over and everything. And then after it being on my Patreon for a bit, I posted it on my Twitter, and well, lo and behold, it's there. But I figured I might as well discuss it here, too, for people that aren't on my Patreon or for people who don't follow me on Twitter. And it's a pretty interesting interview, but there's a lot of little tidbits from the Armada side that just maybe people don't know about. And even to me, some of this that I was reading, it was news to me, even reading it for the first time. Some little trivia information. Now, for people who don't know who Aaron Archer is, of course, especially around that time, that 2001 to like 2003 early Armada development, Aaron Archer was the product design manager of Transformers. He had worked previously on Beast Wars during the tail end of Beast Wars with Transmetal 2s. He helped with the adaptation of Robots in Disguise in 2001, and then, of course, we then get into Armada. He would then go on, of course, years later to be the design vice president of the toy and brand creative and IP development of Transformers and other boy toys division, and would have that role up until his departure with the company in May of 2013, I believe. So, yeah, that's who he is in a nutshell. He's a very important dude within the brand of Transformers and was very hands-on with a lot of the design stuff. He started as a designer. And so a lot of the questions were like, how'd you get into the Transformer brand? And he talked about, again, like I said, getting into the brand through Beast Wars initially, having worked with the Batman, Aliens, and Star Wars brands within Hasbro because that was the Kenner side. And then, of course, how did Armada pretty much come to be, and how it was pretty much the Hasbro president Brian Goldner suggesting that they wanted to do like a low-cost collectible kind of line, obviously akin to what was going on right then in the world with Pokemon, and how Pokemon toys, which were also being released by Hasbro at the time, they were being imported through Tomy, were low-cost, non-articulated PVC figures that were collectible, and people were eating them up, so why not try to play up on that Pokemon gotta catch 'em all aspect? And, the interview goes on to talk about what are Minicons and the whole design process and how they wanted it to be different from, let's say, MicroMasters. But this is when we get to the interesting stuff here. So the question comes up about coloring, right? And how Armada toys, they tried to take advantage of the fact that they could use bright colors because it attracts children, and how throughout the years, because they had to do stuff like Beast Wars, which were more based on Earth colors, and Robots in Disguise were more based on realistic car design colors, that Armada was very freeing so that they could do all kinds of wacky colors if they needed, and they didn't have any limitations. They talked about the very first Armada Micron toy ever developed was actually Demolishor, also known as Ironhide in the Micron Japanese version. And not too long after that was Megatron and Hotshot. And that's interesting because when you really look at Megatron, Hotshot, Demolishor, and I want to add also Cyclonus to the mix, they really have those early Minicon ideas that kind of started to disappear with a lot of the other toys as development continued. Even with Optimus and a few others, like I felt that the Minicons really had a multi-purpose function on a lot of different areas on even the deluxe Transformers. And as time progressed, with the later waves of deluxes and even some of the Voyagers, and you even see it with something like even Red Alert, which was also part of that first wave, kind of got lost as it progressed, and it kind of really just was, hey, here's this one gimmick it'll do, and that's about it. So I think that those early ones that were developed had a lot of multifaceted gimmicks. They went on to ask, what was the most difficult Armada toy to develop? And they said Optimus Prime, oddly enough, mainly because of the infrared gimmick with the automatic transformation and how they kind of struggled to be able to get a vehicle, robot, and base mode that matched the style in all those different modes too. So that's interesting to hear that. I love that, by the way, that even though that Optimus Prime toy isn't like beloved by everybody, it was ambitious. And I think that gimmick really showed, like, nothing has ever been done like that since, where it's like, hey, when it goes from vehicle mode to robot mode, it transforms into this. And then when it goes from robot mode to, upper body torso combiner mode, it transforms into this. And it's very interesting and really has not been done since. And I don't know, maybe because it was so difficult, they haven't revisited it. And they also went on to say, like, who's his favorite character that he got to design. He said Armada Megatron, because it was his first time working on a flagship character or a leader character. And I really like that Megatron toy, especially at a time when we didn't really have bases for our Transformers yet. I mean, when you really think about it, from like 2001 up until, I want to say, like, to a mild extent, Transformers Prime was really the first time we started to get play sets and bases. And I like to believe that the Armada Megatron was the closest that we had to a play set or a base for the longest time, because when he's in his vehicle mode, all those Minicon ports, they kind of like open up all these like platforms and base things that outside of, trailer Optimuses that up to that point were the only way that you got a base. Hey, here's a trailer, it kind of makes a base. But I meant like Transformers that turned into bases. That hasn't been done in a while up to that point, unless you count Brave Maximus, which was just a Fortress Maximus port, at least at that time. And then there was a really interesting one here, and they mentioned how if he could go back and redo any toy, who would that be? And that was an interesting one, because that one I've never heard this before. And he said that if they could go back, they would go back and redo Smokescreen, Armada Deluxe Smokescreen, also known as GRAP, or GRAP, short for Grapple in Micron. And the primary reason for it was because when they were working on him, it was so late in the waves and development that what was on the design page did not even match what the final product was that we got in our hands, and it was just a rushed job. And he said, sorry, we kind of ran out of time. And I could kind of see that in a small sense. I know I love Liftor, the Minicon that comes with him is awesome, so I don't see any problem with him. But I could see it a little bit with Smokescreen. He's kind of one of the more weaker deluxe Armada toys, and that he was also part of Armada's, we called it the Sea of Orange, which was if there was an orange Autobot, it was the shelf warmers of that era, which was Laserbeak and Smokescreen. There was just a sea of them back in the day. Those were the the terrible shelf warmers of that era. So I guess, even though I'm just learning this for the first time here, that was a character they would have wanted to redo. I think that even the rest of the world kind of knew that there was something funky about that toy. And I mean, I bought it day one when it first came out, and I mean, it was what it was back then. I kind of liked it still, and the character of Smokescreen, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I just have lower expectations, I guess. And then afterwards, they just kind of talk about, what they think about the animation and, and all that stuff. The one other thing that was kind of cool was that they asked if he was originally a Transformer fan. And he goes on to mention that he was a casual fan at best. He wouldn't call himself a otaku, although that's a translation from the Japanese source here. They refer to it as an otaku. So take from that what you will. I don't know if it was Aaron's actual words or the translation. He says he used to like Shogun Warriors, which of course was a late 70s port of a whole bunch of different Bandai super robots like, Mazinger Z and Daimos and Goldorak or UFO Grandizer. And he also was a big fan of the Jumbo Machinders, which was like Transistor Z, which was Mazinger Z when he was brought over here. So, interesting little tidbits of also Aaron's past. And it ends with it all. Please tell us about Transformers Superlink, also known as what we would get as Energon. And he said, I saw the first episode and I'm very excited. And I feel it would be a good sequel to Armada. And that is subjective depending on the individual you talk to. I have a very deeper view of Armada and Superlink. I mean, I still feel that it's a weaker series compared to a lot of other Transformer series, but I still think that there's a lot more complexity to Energon and Superlink than people give it credit for. And there's a lot of stuff that was going on there that I kind of wish still existed today in the brand, but not in what you think. But that'll save for another segment. But it was a very interesting interview. If you want to read the full thing, and it, again, keep in mind it's kind of rough. It was translated quickly. We kind of tried to clean up the grammar as best we could. But I have the full thing on my Twitter. I think Aaron's going to probably post it on his Instagram at some point too, because he also has a copy of it. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Follow him on his Instagram. I have my Twitter. And also for those that have been still listening up to this point, I think tomorrow we're probably going to do another live stream on YouTube. So keep an eye out for that. Either I'll post the link on my Twitter. It'll probably be on the Facebook page. And of course, just keep an eye and make sure you're subscribed with a notification on the YouTube channel itself, because they'll send you a message when we go live on YouTube. But yeah, we're probably going to do some kind of live segment. I have like a little, just like how last week we did bootlegs, this week we're going to do kind of maybe Transformers and food merchandise and stuff like that. That might change, but I think that's more or less, what I want to do. Take advantage of all the free time that we have due to the madness going on in the world and all the self-isolation. So let me know what you think about this. And I guess maybe to add a question to the end of this for the comments, if there was one Armada toy you feel that should be gone back and redone, who would it be? For me, I would love to see Sideways again. I would like to see a Sideways toy modernized today with the head transforming gimmick. I almost feel like it was a missed opportunity with Titan's Return. The fact that there was no Sideways toy done during that line, considering it was all about the Titan Masters and those little head gimmicks. So that's mine, but whose would yours be?